Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Jack Kirby Day, so we're taking a look at the next chapter of his Fourth World Saga. Unfortunately, one of the last few original issues that I do not actually own is the subject of today's review. So without further ado, we're going to open up the old trusted Jack Kirby Fourth World Omnibus to the page that reveals Mr. Miracle number 4. Now, keep in mind, right, we're only at issue 4 of all of these titles, or 4 of those titles coming out. So, you know, Jimmy Olsen, New Gods, Forever People, and Mr. Miracle. And already in this omnibus, I had to skip to page 463. So that's a shitload of artwork that Kirby's put out at this point. So cool looking cover. Hopefully that's looking pretty good on the screen there. I like the coloring on this one. Again, it's got that 70s vibe, of course, that I always enjoy. I love the kind of monochromatic orange, yellow, and a bit of white that the henchmen have got here from the light coming off the fire. I think that works really well, even though, you know, the character in the background and the character in the foregrounds are getting that reflective light. It works for me, design-wise, graphic-wise. And, of course, Mr. Miracle always caught in some sort of death trap, so about to be crushed by an Iron Maiden. I always like reading the text on these. I've got to say this is maybe the first use of the term Fourth World where I feel like it kind of makes sense actually with what's going on. I mentioned in one of the past reviews of Jack Kirby stuff that the term Fourth World was being used in a weird fashion. Here, I think it works completely. Kirby's Fourth World is filled with perils for Mr. Miracle. That makes sense to me. Super escape artist. Like I said, always a death trap, right? Bit of Houdini, bit of Steranko apparently was the inspiration. See it! In the heart of a great city, a medieval death trap. Also, a big bonus, big surprise, big Barda. Absolutely. She becomes kind of a bit of the sex appeal of the book, right? There's Mr. Miracle becomes a couple with Big Barda. And oddly shaped, you know, word balloon here. I don't know if that's on purpose or not, but we're just going to move on in case you do or don't know exactly what I mean by that. All right, so let's try to center this as best as I can. This guy's big and kind of unwieldy and hard to bend in the middle there. So yeah, Big Barda just basically shows up. So Mr. Miracle from last issue is already on a mission in the apartment that he has to escape from, the apartment complex where he was put in by Dr. Bedlam with the humans trying to kill him. Basically, they've kind of been they used some sort of anxiety ray or panic ray or something like that, and they're all kind of panicking. We'll see that in a few pages. So Oberon's at home kind of worried about Mr. Miracle, and like I said, Big Barda just kind of shows up. I don't know if she materializes through a boom tube here inside their house, or if she walked in, if that's what is kind of implied here. I'm not quite sure, but boom, she wakes up Oberon pretty quickly by hitting the table. And what we're going to find out is that basically Barda is actually kind of on the side of Darkseid, or at least was trained by Darkseid, although we'll find out that she also helped Scott escape Darkseid's clutches and Granny Goodness's clutches way back when we learn a little bit more about Mr. Miracle's backstory. So, you know, whether she's good or evil is kind of ambiguous, and it's kind of an interesting concept that Kirby's bringing here, where, you know, again, we'll find out that Scott Free, Mr. Miracle, and Barda were raised by Darkseid, but Mr. Miracle kind of revolts, but Big Barda is still somewhat attached to her apocalyptic heritage, even though she's not, you know, completely evil. She's not completely good either, I guess. I don't know, like most people, somewhere in the middle. I really like Big Barda's design. It's one of the kind of more classic, remembered designs of the Fourth World. Definitely works within the confines of this world and New Genesis and Apocalypse, and the look of the armor and the uniforms and stuff. So again, it's less of a superhero costume and more of a uniform or an armor. And it's just very imaginative. The color scheme, I think, works really well. So good job there. The Kirby helmetage is always appreciated, and that kind of the way her hair swooped through that, or is that her hair? We don't even know. I'm not quite sure. I think it's her hair, but it's really coiffed. Anyways, enough about Barda's hair. So now back to Mr. Miracle, who's been falling down the shaft in the middle of the stairwell of this huge apartment complex that we're going to see on the next page. But that's basically putting you into context here. And we are just given a glimpse within the box that he's stuck in. Only 2 more Vince Colletta issues, guys. I'm going to mention, you know, the inking is okay, and there's some panels where I think it works pretty well, like this one, BARDA ripping everything open here, but pretty rough compared to Mike Royer when he's going to be coming on just after the next issue. Forever People that I review. Right after that, we hit New Gods number 5, and we got Mike Royer doing some awesome inks on Kirby, finally giving the king his due. Almost there. I don't know why. This is a pretty simple shot, but you know, knowing what's going on, it's kind of foreboding, I guess. Like, there's something about it that I like, and that creates a bit of tension. Kind of repeating the shot from last issue that was much more detailed, so kept it simple here with all the layering of the stairwells and stuff. You know, again, the king was doing, I don't know how many books a month at this point, so, you know, can't fault him for finding shortcuts for certain panels. So BARDA sees the box, catches it, assuming she's going to be saving Mr. Miracle, but she is not. She rips it open, and Mr. Miracle nowhere to be found because, of course, he's an escape artist and was able to pull away from the danger before anyone expected him to. And another cool, simple upshot using that architectural geometry. I think that looks really cool. And just a weird thing is with Mr. Miracle, what happens is he'll escape the death trap, and it's not quite explained how or why. I guess because, you know, Kirby wants us to have the same reaction as we would have if we're watching a magician or an actual escape artist, you know, a David Blaine or something like that. And then near the end of the issue, he ends up explaining through exposition and dialogue to Oberon how he was able to escape all of these death traps. And a lot of times it's just very kind of convenient stuff, but what are you going to do? You know, when you're having your character escape from death traps pretty much every issue, you're going to run out of ideas pretty quickly, I think. And later on, Mr. Miracle kind of veers, you know, once the Fourth World saga kind of falls apart, the title is kept, the other ones are canceled, and Mr. Miracle kind of veers into different territory than just the straight up death trap stuff. Here's another one where, you know, he's tied up and the humans attack him, and he's already out of the way here, you know, because he is an escape artist. It's not quite explained why. I thought the shot of them using the hose and hitting all these characters here, I thought was really cool and really well done, and, you know, really adds a lot more drama to what can otherwise be kind of a mundane scene of just people getting hosed down. Kirby always knows how to make it exciting and dramatic. Does this guy look a little bit like Mick Jagger to you? That's just me. So here I thought this was an interesting, just again, weird kind of surrealist Kirby sequence. I love when he does these kind of things every once in a while. So, you know, the guys get their, whatever these guys are called, the minions of the issue here, the executioners, right? They're dressed like medieval executioners. They get their hands on Mr. Miracle and bring him to this guy. And I'll just read a little bit of the dialogue. They're shooting a movie. He's perfect for the part. He'll die with superb realism. A paranoid director and actors. How bad can things get? So, you know, these guys have been hit by that paranoid ray, that anxiety ray, and now, you know, out for death, and, you know, planning on torturing Mr. Miracle on screen for, you know, all of it to get a great shot. And this is where the Iron Maiden is introduced, you know, and they throw him in there. Of course, he's going to escape, right? But we're only going to find out near the end of the issue how he actually does it. BARDA, it's her introduction, so they're kind of trying to show you how strong she freaking is. So basically breaks off a pillar and throws it at these guys. Can assume these guys would usually be crushed, but we don't see the aftermath. Some cool use of what she calls her mega rod. Won't make any obvious jokes there either, right? With its shape, cylindrical, elongated shape. I'll just leave it at that, but some fun uses for it, right? I think this is pretty cool with the little rocket blast coming out of it and the way she's flying. Kirby always finds kind of different ways to make all the characters fly around and be able to move around with interesting technology. So BARDA has her mega rod. Mr. Miracle has his discs that he puts his feet on, right? That I talked about I think it was last issue, last review of Mr. Miracle. And Orion has his astro harness, right? So it all lends itself to give each character a specific kind of visual language and look when they're flying that's different from the others. So I think that's very imaginative and works really well. Love these big panels where Kirby kind of always has the hero in a profile shot and then, you know, attacking a bunch of minions and kind of the effect of that. I think that works really well here with Big BARDA. The lack of detail on the character that's, you know, bearing the brunt of The hit here looks really cool. Leaving that white was a good idea, even though this is not necessarily exactly representative of the original book and the original coloring. It's probably similar, right? Newsprint tends to muddy it up a little bit more in a kind of fun way. I don't know if I quite like this more than the 70s newsprint. But yeah, and every character, once again, kind of in a different position, moving in a different angle. Very cool shot here. And of course, she opens up the Iron Maiden, and Mr. Miracle is already out of it. This is where she realizes, she says, and that's, well, let me start with the dialogue down here. Maybe it'll make more sense. No, I'm not in there, Barda, but it did give me a bad moment. Scott, I don't know how you do it, but you're still alive. And that spooky costume, I wouldn't recognize you if I didn't hear you speak. So she recognizes his voice, and now she knows that it is Scott Free, her somewhat boyfriend, I guess, back in the day on Apocalypse, and possibly more so here. Pretty sure they are going to be kind of considered officially a couple, right? If not right at this moment, pretty darn soon. So they face Dr. Bedlam down one more time, and here's the shot where, you know, the inking works here, but what is Coletta doing here? This does not look like Dr. Bedlam at all, and just very kind of muddied and not representative of the design of the character that we were introduced to last issue that we get a bit more of here, but that works. This doesn't work for me here. And just an interesting moment with all these dark energies kind of building up. Kirby throws just heavy shadows on both characters, you know, to I guess heighten the spook factor as he introduces here these at the moment every monster, I'll call them monsters or nightmares, that has haunted every nightmare since time began, leaps from the darkness to jolt the fears of the hidden humans trembling within the building. And then boom, again, not very explained, right? But it, like when I first read this, I was like, okay, what exactly is going on here? What is the concept that he's trying to get across? So a little bit confusing. And then boom, we're back with Oberon. Two figures mysteriously kind of phasing in, probably with a boom tube, right? And then, of course, Oberon recognizes Mr. Miracle and Big Barda, who's back. Scott kind of explains, you know, the backstory. If not for Barda, he never would have escaped Granny Goodness and Apocalypse, right? And she says, I risk severe punishment to help you bolt Granny's institution back in the day, right? We're going to see an issue of New Gods where that happens. A bit of a flashback to when Scott Free's a little younger. Excuse me, is it New Gods? I think it's actually in Mr. Miracle. Anyways, we'll see when we get there. If you ask me, Oberon says, it would have done the girl a world of improvement if she'd left with you, Scott. This little bit of, you know, Big Barda one smacking over the head with her mega rod. Nice little bit of characterization here. I like that. And even like, look at this domestic scene of just, you know, Scott coming in with some sort of pot roast, I guess. I don't know, some that's a huge hunk of meat. Oberon setting the table, right? The evocative kind of 70s architecture and furniture and backgrounds. Just a great establishing shot of the house, and not too complicated, but just such great layering to create that depth and the believability of the environment. These definitely 70s patterned curtains. I love that stuff. So here's where Mr. Miracle basically explains how he got out of each death trap. So the box falling down the center of the apartment complex. It was indeed a time to panic, but was Mr. Miracle that type? Suppose he wasn't. Suppose he coolly inched his bound hands to his belt and opened one of its circular buttons. Now imagine a tiny, powerful, compact utility instrument called a multi-cube. Suppose one of its components was a miniature laser beam. Suppose that this is all very convenient that Mr. Miracle has all these devices on him to get out of these death traps, right? But that's how Houdini did as well. He had pins and things, lock-picking instruments hidden in his sleeves and in his underwear, I guess. So it's that kind of concept, you know. But it does become kind of, you know, very convenient that Mr. Miracle always kind of has something available to get him out of the death trap. And at first in the series, he's using these little instruments, and you know, he does have the mother box. So it's like you think that he would just kind of constantly just, you know, use mother box to assist him with all these extra little bit of tools and things like that. But he doesn't necessarily reference her in these early issues, although he has at some point. Also for the Iron Maiden, how do you get out of that one? Mr. Miracle had to do was put up token resistance, while an incredible destructive corrosion spray made an instant shambles of the rear of the trap. So while he was, you know, contesting them closing the Iron Maiden on him, he sprayed this thing on the back and it disintegrated basically. So very convenient once again. And then these nightmare visions that popped up. Frankly, you might have called it the day of the multi-cube. I think Bedlam was already beaten before he unleashed his spookies. Mr. Miracle and BARDA merely had to walk through those haunts and past all obstacles with that multi-cube in operation. So they were just a hologram or an illusion, right? To scare the paranoid raid humans. It was doing its work, sending out a strong electrosonic signal which blanketed the brain of every paranoid in the building. They couldn't see or hear monsters in a state of coma, so that's how they were disconnected from the monsters, I guess. So Kirby working in science, but in a very kind of haphazard way, and very conveniently getting Mr. Miracle out of trouble. And we get this nice, funny little sequence, I think, at the end where, you know, they're getting ready for supper, and BARDA comes down, you know, out of uniform. Clearly, she's from, you know, Apocalypse. She's from another world, so I guess their idea of, you know, civil dress for supper is a little bit different. So basically wearing kind of a futuristic-looking bikini, and Oberon obviously notices right away, right? And this last couple of lines between the characters are pretty funny. I take it all back, Oberon. That's a big, beautiful woman playing soldier. Whoever made that gal wear a uniform should be horsewhipped. So clearly both men are a little bit taken aback by BARDA's swimsuit and her, you know, very revealing kind of look. And again, Kirby sometimes with those costume inconsistencies. She's got the straps coming up next to her here, but not here. Kind of odd, but that's how it goes when you're doing 2 to 3 books a month, right? Just blazing through those. And that is it, guys. That is my review of Mr. Miracle number 4. If you're still watching and you are subscribed, thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate it very much. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please do so below. It only takes a quick second for you, and it really helps the channel out, helps us grow, and helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books just like we are. So once again, thank you all, and have an awesome day. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13. 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby. Like!